Cold email is one of the best tools in your sales rep toolbox, but there's just one problem. If your emails aren't getting opened in the first place, then all of your efforts, all of your clever copywriting, the personalization, the outreach, all of that's going to be for nothing. And all of this falls back on the importance of having a clear and effective subject line. So, what is the absolute best, unequivocal email subject line that you could ever use? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this very video. Hi, my name is Will and I make selling simple. Now, in today's video, we're going to talk about subject lines, not what structure you can use to build them or which top 10 subject lines get solid open rates. No, none of that. No, today we're going to look at the ultimate, bar none, the best cold email subject line that there is, and it comes from a referral. I'm going to break down what the ultimate subject line looks like and why it works so damn well. And then we're going to get into the nitty gritty of how to get this referral in the first place. After all, it's going to be no good to watch this video if you don't have the process and you don't have a name in place to drop in this referral subject line. And to do that, we're going to look at the 4-step referral framework from inside Selling Made Simple Academy. We're going to cover confirming value, asking who else, making a specific ask, and then the 1-1-1 rule. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So let's start with the most obvious question here. What does the best performing subject line of all time actually look like? And let's not beat around the bush. Let's start this video with a ton of value. Well, it looks something like this. You're going to use the person's name that you're engaging with. So Barry, and then your referral name. Sally said that I should get in touch. Bam. That's it. That's the absolute best subject line you could ever use in your cold emails. It works so damn well because you're leveraging someone else's trust rather than putting all the effort into building your own or relying on the organization that you work for, that the trust that they've built over time. So if this person knows this person here, it all works absolutely seamlessly and you're going to get nearly 100% open rates. It's so simple, it's so effective, and you could go out and use this right now for yourself and watch your response rates and open rates skyrocket. But hold on a second, just slow down one tiny minute here. If all the magic was just putting these words and phrases together and building this cold email subject line, wouldn't everyone be doing it? Well, that's where the problem comes about here, because referrals can be a little bit difficult to get hold of if you don't have a strategy and a process in place. Most buyers are not going to give them out freely, willy-nilly, right? And asking for one, salespeople feel often a little bit awkward and they don't know how to navigate that process. So rather than spending any more time talking about the subject line in this video, because that is the subject line, if you can start using this, you will absolutely just decimate the competition with at least getting your emails opened. So instead of looking at this subject line 20 different ways, we're going to look at how you can get the hardest part of this nailed, the cold email secret weapon. We're going to look at how to get the actual referral in the first place. Now, if you've watched this channel's videos before, you know that we over at Selling Made Simple Academy have a framework for everything that you need to have massive sales success. And so, surprise, surprise, we've got a process, a framework on how to get a referral as well. This 4-step referral framework from inside Selling Made Simple Academy takes you exactly step by step through what you need to do to get referrals from your current client base. So let's run through this in a little bit more detail, and we'll start with confirming value. This is where you're going to set the groundwork needed to get a solid referral without any false promises from the prospect or them even just dragging their feet. What you're going to do here is to get your client to clearly recognize the benefits that your solution has provided them over time. Hopefully you've delivered on the value that you promised, otherwise all of this falls apart, right? And if your return on investment is great, then they're going to be more than happy to reciprocate you and the effort you put in with a quick favor. So the principle of this step of the process is pretty easy, and you can do this over email, but you're going to get the best results doing this from a quick phone call. That way you can focus the prospect's attention, you can ensure that they're seeing the full scope of the value that you offer, because if they don't see the value that you offer and that you've delivered to them, they're not going to give you the referral. So it's a better situation to be in where you can go back and forth. And all you got to do is share the numbers, and be sure to use real numbers here, not just the general benefits that you promised. Engage with the prospect, make sure that they're happy with what you've delivered to them, and then just ask this question. Hey, do you feel like all of this is working out as well as you planned? And if your ROI is solid, if you've done everything right, then they're going to say, yes. It's going to come straight from the horse's mouth, and then you can move on to step 2 of this framework. Step 2 is asking who else. So when the prospect turns around and tells you how happy they are that you've prospected them, found them, delivered the product and delivered some ROI, just ask the question, is there anyone else that you feel we could help within your professional network? Now, this is a bit cheesy, but I've had to word it this way so it's more generic and open. It might be, hey, do you know any other CROs that you think we could help improve their sales performance? It's a dead simple question, but you've got to do one thing at this point. You've got to shut the hell up. Make the ask and then don't say another word. Let the buyer think about this on their own and don't try and help them or prompt them or relieve any of the tension that might be in the conversation at this moment. It might feel, for both you and them, a little bit awkward for a second, 3 seconds, and that's absolutely fine. But you made a promise with your product and you delivered on it. Now it's time for the prospect to do you a bit of a favor in return. So hopefully they tell you that Sally in X organization can perhaps use your product or service as well. Now don't give up after that first name. Follow up with the question, okay, great. Is there anyone else that you think we can help? And then maybe they'll give you another name and just keep asking this question. Okay, thanks. I really appreciate this. Great. Is there anyone else that you think we can help? And at some point they'll go, okay, that's enough. You've had your names now, and then you can move on to step number 3. Step number 3 is where we're going to make a specific ask of the customer. Because getting the contact information is one thing, and this is like the bare minimum that you should be doing. But instead, I want you to add in one small detail that will really make your open rates fly. So rather than asking, okay, great, you're fantastic, can you give me their email address? Rather than asking this, right? Instead, I want you to ask them, okay, great. If I email them and CC you in, is it okay for me to mention that we've worked together? This right here, Sales Nation, is an absolute game changer. Not only are you getting the referral, which is already leagues ahead of any other subject line that you could possibly use to get the attention of someone who is important, who's busy, an executive, a decision maker. You're also attaching your common contact's address, their email address, to the email as well. And when your prospect sees a name that they recognize, and the fact that they're copied into the email thread, well, it's just going to pop right out of the screen and it's going to practically subconsciously force them to click that open button. If you can get your prospect to agree to this, which if you've helped them out, they probably should. We do this all the time over at salesman.org. To be real with you and to be blunt here, we do this all of the time. Every one deal that we typically get 3 or 4 referrals from that individual. Not all of them turn into deals, but almost all of them turn into conversations and prospects. So once you get this nailed, we're then going to move on to the final step of the process. And this is called the 1-1-1 rule. And this is important because sometimes you just can't get all the details sorted out with your customer in a single meeting. So what kind of follow-up schedule should you implement so you get that super valuable referral from your current buyer? Well, it's all pretty damn simple. All you're going to do is follow up after 1 day, 1 week, and then 1 month. It's called the 1-1-1 follow-up. And at that point, if it's been a whole month and the buyer hasn't got back to you with the referrals that they promised, you're just wasting your time. They're not going to give it you. And you can move on to the next customer that you've hopefully helped and delivered some value to. Remember, it's better to keep people on your side rather than burn them in sales, because there's going to be future referrals, future upselling opportunities, and future cross-selling opportunities with everyone that you deal with over the longer term. So don't burn these bridges. So that's the referral framework from inside Selling Made Simple Academy and how it can be used to create the world's most effective cold email subject line. In the real world, this is the most effective subject line I have ever seen. And it makes sense, right? Because you're leveraging someone else's trust, person who's a peer to the prospect that you're trying to get in front of, rather than slogging away at building your own. It's an instant rapport builder. And to get this referral, to build a subject line, all you got to do is follow this 4-step framework. You're just going to confirm the value that you provided for your customer up to this point. Then you need to ask, who else in your professional network would benefit from working with us? Because you benefited from us. Perhaps we can help someone else and make you look like a hero as well. Then we're going to make a specific ask. So we're going to ask if we can copy the buyer into the email with a new prospect. And then finally, we're going to follow up with the 1-1-1 rule. We're going to follow up 1 day, 1 week, 1 month with the buyer until they give us all the details that we need to implement the referral and get those cold emails opened. Now, you might not want to do this for you might not be able to do this for every single prospect that you want to get in front of. But if you're trying to get into an organization at a high level, if you're trying to deal with C-suites, executives, busy people, it's well worth doing that little bit of effort up front. And this could honestly all come from just one phone call where you ring a good customer and you say, hey, I know on LinkedIn that you comment on this person's posts. I see that you're connected with this person. I saw you at an event together, whatever it is. We have done this, this, and this for you. Here's the ROI. Would it be okay if I copy you on an email I'm going to send to this prospect because I want to do the same for them that I've done for you? That's how you can implement this. It's one quick phone call, and that's how you break down doors in the B2B space. And that's not to mention, you should do this step, this process with everyone that you close, everyone that you deliver value to, because you might get 2, 3, 4 different new prospects that you didn't even realize were prospects until your customer, who was your prospect, your customer now tells you that this person's probably a good fit for your product or service. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, why not click the video that's on the screen right now and continue making selling simple.